Well, I've had two different roof racks since purchasing my Jeep, and this system here has been on for just a little over 2 years, and there's some pros and cons about this roof rack that I'm going to share with you in this video. Stay tuned. Welcome to Trail Recon, I'm Brad, and this is the Rhinorack Backbone system with the Pioneer platform that I've had on my Jeep for the last 2 years, and I think it's safe to say that I've put it through its paces.
You got it. You got it. Perfect.
Hold that line, you can climb there. Just climb it in front. Good. Back a little bit. Good.
Well, I think it's safe to say that I've put some stress on this roof rack for the last 2 years, and today we're going to talk about how well it's held up, some of my criticisms, and then at the end of the video, I'll share with you my opinion on if given the opportunity to do it all over again, would I still buy this roof rack? But first, let's just talk about roof racks in general. Now, there are many reasons why folks decide to put roof racks on the tops of their Jeep, most importantly being for extra storage, because if you have a large family, you're on a big road trip, you may need an extra place to carry some of your camping gear and all that kind of stuff. Other folks, they want roof racks so they can throw some mountain bikes or maybe a canoe up there. Maybe you want to mount some accessories and some lights, or in my case, you want to throw a rooftop tent up there so you can go spend several nights out on the trail and do a little camping. Well, whatever your reason, there are several roof racks to choose from depending on what your needs are. One of the most common types of roof racks is the basket style, where you can just throw all kinds of gear inside. That's actually what I had first when I first got my Jeep, and it mounted to these rear hinges and the rain gutters. And while it was great for some storage, it is limited on how much weight it can carry because you're dependent on this fiberglass roof and those rain gutters. And so you can put, a spare tire up there, some camping gear, a few storage items, but you're not going to throw a rooftop tent up there because those rain gutters are not going to hold that. They're just made out of fiberglass. It is a good option if all you're planning on doing is just throwing a little bit of camping gear up there. Now, another roof rack option is the exterior skeleton style, like the Gobi rack on my buddy Marcos. Those things are really durable roof racks and allow you to put quite a bit of weight on there. Plus, you can mount all kinds of accessories out on the side. It's a really good option. However, the reason I didn't choose to go that way was because I didn't want that exterior skeleton getting in the way of some of those tight spaces that I find myself getting into every once in a while. I think it's a great roof rack, it just wasn't for me. And so I went with this platform style rack that bolts through the roof. Now there are a couple of variations of this, but the basic way they work is there's an interior structure that helps support the weight of the roof rack, and it's very sleek and streamlined, and it allows you to mount a lot of weight up there. I could put a rooftop tent, all kinds of accessories. It's really been a great roof rack. Now, once you've determined what style of rack is best for your needs, you need to take a close look at the weight. And there's two weight numbers that you need to know. One is the static weight and the other is the dynamic weight. And I'll be honest with you, most manufacturers don't do a good job of listing these two weights like on their website. And sometimes you have to call them to get that information. And I've even had some experience where they didn't know the answer. So here's what you need to know. Static weight. Static weight is the amount of weight the roof rack can handle when the vehicle is not in motion. So if you're going to throw a rooftop tent up there, you and maybe your spouse are going to climb up there, you need to factor in all that weight because a rooftop tent can weigh anywhere from 120 to 200 pounds. And then you add another 300 pounds of people up there, that quickly adds up to 400 to 500 pounds of weight. Is that roof rack going to support it? That is your static weight. Your dynamic weight is how much that weight that rack can support when the vehicle is in motion, because when things are in motion there's more stress and things moving around, so it's not going to hold quite as much weight as the static rating, so it's going to be a little lower number. This roof rack here is rated at 264 pounds, which is perfect. My rooftop tent weighs about 150 pounds. I throw a couple lights, a little bit of gear, I'm well under that 264 pounds. So those are two numbers you need to know. The next thing we need to talk about is price, because look, roof racks are not cheap. I think the cheapest one you can find out there is about $400. This one here on sale was right around $1,500. Now, the best option is to make it yourself, and lots of people have built their own roof racks, and if you have those skills, I think that's the best budget-friendly way to go. But some of us don't have those skills, or maybe you just don't have the time to build a roof rack. So buying one, I think you got to spend as much as you can within your budget to get the best quality. There's something to be said about you get what you pay for when it comes to roof racks. This one was a little pricey, but it's held up really well over the last 2 years. Let's get into the specifics. Now, I did install the Rhino Rack Backbone system with the platform in my garage on a Saturday afternoon with some basic hand tools, and it was pretty straightforward. And I actually did a full video on that, and I will leave a link down below if you want to go check out that install. The only anxiety I had with the whole thing was drilling those holes through the hardtop, but that's a necessary evil that you have to do if you want that extra strength of the roof rack. Let me show you how this one is designed. Now, at the heart of the backbone system is this internal structure that is mounted to the inside of the roof using the existing hardware that you use to secure the top to the body of the Jeep. What I really like is if I decide I want to take the top off, there's no extra steps involved. It's all the original hardware to pull the top on and off. Now, there are some other roof racks that are similar to this that tie into the roll bars. Those are just as strong, but there is an extra step that you have to do if you want to take the top off. I really like this design. Now, on the outside, there are 6 mounting plates, and those mounting plates are where the holes are drilled that come through and then secure to this internal structure. It's a really nice design, but let's talk about some of the stuff on the outside and a couple criticisms I have. Now, where those 6 platforms are that we drilled and bolted through are where the 6 legs for the roof rack attach. Now, originally I had some metal, low profile legs on here, which actually looked really cool because it was a little sleeker design. But the challenge with that was anytime I wanted to access the mounting hardware for the rooftop tent, I couldn't do it. It was really a challenge. I mean, getting a wrench and getting a hand in there, I shouldn't say I couldn't do it, it just wasn't very much fun. And so I did upgrade to these taller polymer legs. Now, they're not metal, but they are taller. They do have a lock on them, and inside here there's a little quick release. They're a nice little leg, and it doesn't look as sleek, but it is definitely easier to access the hardware underneath. Now, a big criticism that I have is that these legs are mounted to this platform with a single bolt. So that means there's only 6 bolts on these legs, little tiny bolts really, holding these all on. And when I was out on a multi-day trip earlier last year, I was hearing this rattling going on, and I was like, what is that noise? And I couldn't figure it out. And I finally came out and I just started moving stuff around, and sure enough, I moved this around and the legs were bouncing up and down. 3 of the legs had come loose, which was a little disappointing. So I had to go in there, tighten them all down. I actually ended up putting a little bit of Loctite in there just to make sure they stayed secure. I haven't since had any problems, but that is one criticism. I wish that these secured a little better to these platforms. Now, moving up to the Pioneer platform, I will say this thing is rock solid. I have abused the heck out of it. And initially, I was a little concerned. I mean, it is built out of aluminum, but the 4 corners are actually like this similar polymer plastic. And I was like, man, are these going to fade over time? Or are they going to crack? And well, after 2 years, they're still just the same color and just as strong as they were when I originally bought them. So it's holding up really well. Now, my one criticism about the Pioneer platform, and it's really not any fault of the Pioneer platform, it's more of a fault of my rooftop tent. So I've had 3 rooftop tents since I've had this rack up there, and each set of rooftop tents has rails on them for mounting. And the tent's rails are different widths on each one. And so getting those rails to fit in between the slats has always been a challenge. Either I had to relocate the rails on the rooftop tent, or I just drilled some holes in the slats to make things work. It's not ideal, but that's my only criticism. I think to do it over again, maybe getting crossbars, so you can get 3 crossbars that mount to these plates instead of the platform, might be a better solution if all you're gonna do is mount a rooftop tent up there and you don't need it for anything else, because it will make your life a whole lot easier. What I do really like about this setup is having the ability to mount some accessories up there. Now in each of those slats, there are some channels where you can put some T-slots in there and mount, shovels or rotopacks, or I even had a high lift up here for a while, all kinds of options. But for me, what's really the thing that stays up here the most is some lights. And these are just screwed in, and well, I'll tell you how the rear one is mounted here in a second. But on the side here, I have some KC scene lights. And I used to have 2 on each side, and it was just too powerful. So I went down to 1. And when I originally had the low profile legs on here, I just had these bolted into the side of the platform. But once the legs came up, I was able to put these lights underneath. And so this light just sits right underneath. It's out of the way. It's perfect. I should mention that this is used for camp. That's usually what I'm having these on for, just so I can see out at camp. Now on the rear is the KC chase light. And I love having that thing, especially when we're out in the desert, because I can throw the ambers on and folks can see me through the dust. It makes life really easy. But I've just got that thing zip tied up there, and you may think I'm crazy, and that's definitely not the best way to do it, but you know what? For over a year, that thing has been zip tied to the back, and it's been working great. I came up with a couple other bracketries, and I just didn't like the way it stuck out or the way it hung, and the zip ties just work. So you know what? Zip ties can get you a long way. But anyway, it's great to be able to mount accessories to this platform system. Now to answer 2 common questions that I get quite often. And one, does it make any wind noise? And the answer to that is yes. Any roof rack is going to make some amount of wind noise. But is it loud? Is it annoying? No, definitely not. I mean, you can hear the wind blowing over it depending on how fast you're going. And if you're out in the desert and the wind is blowing at 40 miles an hour, you're going to hear it. But honestly, I've had mud tires on here that were much louder. And it's not annoying. I can have a conversation. I can listen to the radio. It's a Jeep. I mean, look, a Jeep isn't quiet anyway. It doesn't add that much extra noise when you're inside the vehicle. The second question I get is, does it leak? Because we drilled all those holes inside the roof. Have I ever had it leak? And the answer is no, it's never ever leaked, which has been good because that was a genuine concern of mine as well. Okay, so now the big question. If to do it over again, would I buy this roof rack? Well, I'm actually going to be taking this off here soon because I've got something else planned, but more to follow on that here shortly. But the answer is yes. I absolutely would buy this system again. I think it's a great system. It's supported all the weight that I've thrown at it. It's held up really well. I think the only thing I would do is maybe opt for the crossbars instead of the platform, because I really don't need the platform. I just need a place to put the tent. The lights are just nice to have up there. So I think to do it all over again, I would just go with the crossbars, but the answer is yes. So there you have it. There is my 2-year follow-up review of the Rhinorack Backbone system with the Pioneer platform. This has been a great roof rack, and I think it's an awesome option if it's something you're looking for. And again, I'll link down below if you want to check out the install video. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Please remember to always travel the trails responsibly. Thanks for watching.